Hi girl. So I came across a video on TikTok, as I do, of this woman saying that all those people that cut off their families and don't talk to their mothers anymore, how are you doing this holiday? This was last year, by the way. Like, how are you doing? Aren't you lonely? And obviously she was being like sarcastic because she had cut off her family as well. So the comments were filled with, all different kinds of opinions, but the one that stuck out to me was, well, that's still your parents type of comment. And instead of diving into that, I went the opposite direction on why though what would the parents have done to make their kid not want anything to do with them. I was focusing more on the parent and not what the child has done, because that is something that we need to talk about, which led me to the question, why are millennials and Gen Z leaving their parents, specifically African parents? Why is that happening? Now, when it comes to relationships between parents and child within the African context, there are two major components that we have. We have religion and culture. And I'm going to be speaking in general terms because Africa is a huge continent. There's many different cultures, but it all boils down to who the adult is and who the child is within the African culture, of where the adult is the superior and the child is the inferior, and the child is never listened to. Like, children are literally seen but should not be heard, especially the girl child. I think that's like a topic for another day, because most of the videos that I did see of women or of people letting go of their families, most of them are women, girl child, African women telling their stories. Like, there's probably like one or two where the male is saying that I left my family, but it's mostly the women. So in general, when it comes to the African culture, the older you get, the more power and the more respected you are in society. So that's where the whole thing, as long as you live under my roof, you will listen to me, because they are still seeing you as the less than, you're not fully a grown adult. So the longer you even stay in their house under their care, the more you still have to be underneath them. It's definitely not like the Western culture where as soon as you turn 18 you are done, you're a full-grown adult. African parents, as long as you live under their house and even sometimes outside, they still see you as a young and someone whose opinion does not matter in the adult business. So basically, unlike in Europe where the more you age, the more invisible you are in society, in African context it's definitely the opposite. Like, we all know our respected grandmothers, like, they are treated like queens, which I'm not reprimanding. Like, that is our culture and we are proud of it, but at the same time that causes some sort of hell for the rest of us. And the rhetoric that's always spoken is respect your parents, respect, but no, respect your elders, but that respect really means fear your elders, basically, because that respect just generally means that you have to be a slave to them in most extreme cases, but that is basically what it is. How was slavery? Like, you get beaten up, you working for free, all that kind of stuff, and you see a parallel where this child, this firstborn elder's daughter, is taking care of her siblings and she's not getting paid for it. It's not her job, and if she doesn't listen or something like that, she gets beaten up. Like, tell me the parallel. Like, we can see the parallel. Like, obviously it's not the same extremes, but we can definitely see a connection there. And we have the religious side of it, where I'm a Christian, by the way, just a side note, but I'm not gonna ignore what religion can do to harm people, where the only thing the African parent is looking at when it comes to kids is that verse in the Bible, Proverbs 13 verse 24, spare the rod, spoil the child. That is the only thing when it comes to children that they know of from the Bible, and they have took it and ran with it. That's where we hear so many stories, like 99% of them. I was beaten. I was beat until I had blood. Otherwise, if there was no blood, that means I have not learned my lesson enough. I don't think that's very biblical, is it? It's really not. So adding the cultural aspect and also the Christian aspect, we come to a conclusion that African parenting style is authoritative parenting. And just to define that, Authoritarian parenting focuses on discipline and control, while authoritative parenting focuses on limit setting with connection, of which the African parent definitely chooses the first one. In an article by the Gospel Coalition, it says, most people will agree that parenting in Africa is typically closer to the latter. African parents tend towards being authoritarian rather than permissive. So now the question we have to ask yourself, what is this need for African parents to have this control and this discipline mindset? Like, let me discipline you. Why is that? Most of the time when you ask them that question or when you're having discussions about it, they equal it to love. And that's where you have to ask the question, why does love mean pain to you? Why does love hurt? There's a story of Jesus that I was thinking about where he was young and he goes missing, but then he turns out he was at the church. And then the parents ask him, like, where were you? And he's like, didn't you know I'd be in my father's house? I just imagine how an African parent would react to that. Like, if I was to just like disappear on them and be like, well, don't you know that I would be at church? They would not, you wouldn't even finish that sentence. You get a slap in the face. Why do they do this? Number one, generational trauma. This is such a big topic, which I'm not going to go very, very deep into it. I'm sure you're already familiar with it, but like generational trauma is a real thing. Something happens to your great-grandfather. He does it to his child, who is your grandfather. Your grandfather does it to your father. Your father does it to you. Or in this case, abuse, basically. Let's just call it what it is. Abuse. It happens over time. It happens to you and then you don't heal and then you pass it on to your child. Have you ever, right now as you're watching, have you ever done something that you're like, well, my mom used to do this to me and I thought I would never do this, but now I'm doing it. It doesn't have to be negative or positive, but just something that you just subconsciously had in your mind and you doing it without even realizing it, and then realizing then you've gotten that from your parents. And it's such an interesting thing that if you don't take note of it, it can happen. So if you don't take note of the trauma that's happening, you are most likely to carry it to the next generation. Just an example, this is a positive one though. My mom would always say, do the dishes, all that kind of stuff, and never go to sleep with the dishes undone. And then I found myself saying the same thing to my husband without even realizing it. However, when I was back home, I never would want to do it, but now it's like I have to do it. I have to do the dishes. I was speaking in my TikTok where it doesn't bother me to do the dishes anymore as it used to, but like I feel this thing where it's like I can't go to sleep without the dishes done. Okay, sometimes I do, but like that, just having that and not really paying attention of where I got it from. I got it from my mom, and imagine if that was a terrible thing that I got, something horrible for my parents, then I would continue doing it and not even realize it or take a moment to think about it. One of the scariest thing when talking about the African relationship with the child is not labeling it as abuse, because the word abuse is so strong, and when African parents hear it, they get triggered, and that means you're associating them with something that's unheard of. They call it, discipline, they call it love, but it's actually abuse. So if you call it that, you're really hitting a nerve, and that's where they call you out for being disrespectful, for you just telling them about how you felt. And speaking about the generational trauma, I was listening to a Black American speak about this, how, them being beaten, would come from slavery, how they were beaten by, the master. Where I was thinking, in the African context, slavery, yes, was very prominent in Africa, but, definitely not the same as it was in America and other, countries. I thought, in Africa, as there were settlers, even before settlers, abuse was still there. But then back then, there were just so many violent things happening. It wasn't even considered like abuse or anything like that. And we sort of carried that to today, where it's like, oh, it's just discipline, I'm just disciplined. Like, why are you beating a 3-year-old child for doing what 3-year-olds do? And after all that, you almost wonder, why do people have children if they're not gonna wanna take care of them? Or if they blame their kids for not living their glorious lives. There are other people where their parents are constantly saying, oh, I would have been this if I didn't have you. You know, making their kids feel bad for being in the world. And it's like, why? You brought them into the world. You did what you did in the bedroom, and now they're here. And that's where it clicked in my head that people want to have babies, but they don't want to have children. They don't want to have grown adults. Okay, have you seen an African mother with a baby? That is the bond you would just. It's amazing. Like, I've seen it firsthand. When an African woman has a baby, they are locked together. You cannot, tell them apart. But as soon as that child starts to become an individual, starts to speak, they're already getting warning. Oh, she's going to be trouble when she's this age. Oh, you better, watch out for her. They're already being told these negative things about their kids before their kids even reach that age. So they already have this preconceived notion about this child is going to be the death of you. They're already imagining you with boys and all that kind of stuff, where it's like you are literally a 3-year-old child, a 4-year-old child, and you dressing in shorts or whatever, you are trying to, get the attention of men, all that. So it's like they love you so much when you're a baby, when you can't speak, and they're giving you everything, food, they're making you a fat little baby. But as soon as you start becoming your own individual self that has nothing to do with them, that's where the problem becomes, because some parents have kids just to imitate themselves. They want another part of themselves. That is it all goes with the whole like patriarchy and just keeping your family name, all that kind of stuff. They want to make the name stronger. That's where it also goes with, you have to be a doctor. Why? Because, it makes our family look, good in front of people, something like that. Or I don't want people thinking that my child is this and that. It's not really about you anymore. It's about you living for your family, living for your parents. So it's almost like the parents that are most likely to abuse their kids are the ones that cannot separate themselves from their kids' image. They want their kids to be the spitting image of themselves, of what they think they are. They believe they are perfect, so you must be perfect. They believe that they wanted to be a doctor and couldn't because of you, but you don't have a kid, so you should be a doctor, as I was. You know what I'm saying? If I ask you a question, don't answer it because you are being disrespectful. But if you keep quiet, you're also being disrespectful, because that's how it was with my parents. Does that sound familiar? You need to be grateful for being alive. You need to be grateful that I'm giving you food, that I'm giving you a place to stay. This reminds me of one of my favorite pastors. His name is Pastor Catello. I watch him like every time. There's this video on YouTube. I'm going to link it down below because you need to watch that sermon. But it was speaking about like, why are parents expecting their kids to be grateful for something they are born with or already have? It's like parents who work hard. African parents are working hard for us to be overseas, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, why are they asking you to be grateful for something, you are grown up with? It's easier to be grateful for something you didn't have and now you have. But like, it's almost like they're taking your life and they want to be you kind of thing, where it's like they didn't grow up with these things and they're giving it to you, but they want you to show that gratefulness as if you've never had it, but you were born with it. But they're kind of looking at it from their perspective. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, I think I'm going to find the clip and just put it here so that you guys can understand. And if I don't, that's going to be in the link description below. You have to watch the whole thing. But like, it's like, why are you wanting me to worship you for me being here? Aren't children blessings from God? Isn't it like a privilege to be a parent, to be able to take care of another human being? So to answer then the question, why do they have kids? For cultural reasons. If you guys watch that testimony, watch it during the daylight because it's actually quite scary. But it's like, some of the reasons to have kids are not ideal, and because of your reasoning wasn't good, you're not going to raise that child well, because you were being pressured by society to have a kid when you just got into a marriage. You know, you want to have a son, you know, so you can give it to your husband's family. It's not even your child, so you don't really care for it, and you're not really looking for the best interest of the child. You're having a child so that the child can be you, because you missed out on your opportunity. So now you're going to have a child so that the child can live your dreams. Well, you're having kids because of status, you had them by mistake, whatever it is, whatever those reasons are, they should not equate you to abusing that child, because that child has nothing to do with all those reasons you came up with. Because at the end of the day, that is a human being, and it's your responsibility to take care of them the right way. And there definitely needs to be some self-reflection, which I think a lot of African parents don't have. Self-reflection, like, maybe I am the problem. No, that never comes to be like, maybe I shouldn't have said that way. Maybe it's time to apologize. No self-reflection. Why? Because of the pride. The pride is so strong. And you'll be wondering, like, these people that claim to love Jesus Christ, that go to church every Saturday or Sunday, all that, but they have so much pride they can't apologize. They have so much pride they can't say when they are wrong. They can't listen to their kids. And it's like the complete opposite of what they claim to be about. It's honestly quite horrific, if you ask me. And when you do call them out on it, they'll be like, well, I was beaten when I was growing up and I turned out fine. But did you? Did you really turn out fine? Look at what you're doing now. Like, did you really turn out? Like, that self-reflection would show you, like, okay, I didn't turn out right. I mean, I'm doing exactly the same things that I hated to my kids. You know, maybe I should stop. You know, I feel like there should be more open parenting classes for African parents, because it's like, I think everyone needs this. Everyone needs parenting books. You know, you need to learn how to do this properly, and not just take that one verse in Proverbs and that be your motivation, or the something you look up to when it comes to raising children. The thing is, many African parents have opportunities to start the healing process, but the things that are hindering them from that is, again, pride. And what will people say? Oh, they love this. What will people say? And also just keeping things in the family, you know, keeping all the traumas in the family. We don't want outside people to, you know about our problems. And also just simply ignorance, just like not caring at all. And really seeing yourself as superior, where it's like, I don't have to listen to this. I don't have to listen to you. I birthed you, so therefore you don't tell me what to do. But I want to speak about the what will people say rhetoric, because there's too much of that, because you are more worried about what people will say than your own child's mental health. That is actually quite scary. That is I can't imagine my parents saying that. Like, they're perfect, by the way. But like, I can't imagine. That is a terrible thing to say, because your child should come first. Which reminds me of this TikToker that I saw. Yeah, I am always on TikTok. But anyway, I'm trying to like go on there less. But yeah. This lady said that she was starting a business. She lives, I think, like in the UK, and she was like starting a business to sell African products, so African goods, you know, like, oh, I want to do that, you know, and like that is such a good place to start, you know, because here in Europe there's like hardly any African food, and it's such a good business idea. But then her mom was saying that that's embarrassing. Now my friends back at home are laughing at me because my child is selling food, you know, because in Africa there's a lot of judgments when it comes to what job and what title you at, especially when you go overseas.
I literally called my mom to tell her that I was launching an online grocery store for Africans, but somehow she was not accepting that. She was like, you're 30, this is not the time when you're 20 years old. You need security, you need stability. What am I going to tell my friends you do for a living? Oh, so you moved to London to go and be selling crayfish and tomato. Huh? Did she miss the entire point of this conversation? I am changing the history of African groceries online in the UK. I am delivering countrywide. I am delivering same day, next day. You can tell your friends that your daughter contributed to changing this industry. What? Am I supposed to live my life based on what your friends think? You know the part that pisses me off the most? We've been through this before. I launched Glam Africa magazine 7 years ago. I had to quit my job to do it. I was working in oil and gas at the time. You know, at that point, I think I could understand that. There was a bit of fear, a bit of worry. Is my daughter going to get lost? I have proven myself. I have done this before. I distributed Glam Africa in 5 countries. I met presidents. I did everything. So you would expect that trust now that, hey, this is a 30-something-year-old woman now, not a 20-something-year-old kid. She has that stability she's talking about. I can do this. There's no doubt in it. And I think I know my mom. Maybe I should have expected this. But the reality is, I just thought she now knows what I'm capable of. But one thing for sure, that's not going to stop me. It didn't stop me the first time when I was a 20-something-year-old child. It's not going to stop me today. And I think for anyone watching this, like, sometimes we keep looking for approval elsewhere, but the thing is, when you've got a concept, an idea, you've got that intuition, no one else can understand the way you do. So stop seeking that approval. Go and do it. When you've done it, they'll all follow along, right? So follow your intuition, do your stuff, and then, you know, they'll understand, they'll come around. That's all I can say. Like, I'm doing it. So yeah, counting down to the launch of the African store, whether you like it or not.
And then you tell them, oh yeah, I'm working in a hotel. They're like, what? They really look down on jobs. So I say it's really the opposite. Like, whatever job sector that you're in, you are a respected human being, as I was watching this YouTuber say. But her mom was literally, it came to a point where the relationship ended because the mom was just caring too much about what people said. But her child was being successful, starting a business, all that kind of stuff. And it was really disappointing to hear, like, how you could put other people before your daughter. It's so weird. It's so weird. Now, as a Christian, what does the Bible say about cutting off your parents? Because we have to come to a conclusion, right? Because other people are saying, like, but they're still your parents. I don't know what this notion where it's like, you can't because they're still your parents comes from, as if it's written somewhere. I don't know where it's written, but like some people are saying, like, but they'll curse you. But it's like, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And that includes your parents. I know why people think that because someone is blood, they won't do any harm to you. Those are the people that most of the time do the most harm to you. And there's that saying, blood is thicker than water. People misread what that means. This is the actual full quote of where that comes from, and people always misunderstand it. It actually says the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. This means that the chosen bonds are more significant than those bonds with family or water of the womb. More directly, it means that relationships you make yourself are far more important than the ones that you don't choose. I mean, within the first few verses of the Bible, Cain and Abel, and one of them unalived the other, and they were blood family, which means that sometimes you have to just let them go. You can love them from a distance. Yeah, I love you, but like, you have to let them go if these people aren't benefiting you or adding to your spiritual and happiness. I would say, in conclusion, we need to watch ourselves and get the help that we need, because a lot of us are hurting. Some of us, keep it at the back of our minds, but if you have children and it's gonna come out, so you really need to tackle those things and go back to it. If you can't afford therapy, you need to find a friend and speak about it. Okay, you need to find somebody, find me. Okay, we can talk about it. Like, we can, my DMs are always open, but definitely let it out. Let it out, the anger, all that, because if it's all bottled up, it's gonna go to the next person, and then again creates generational trauma. And to the African parents that are watching who have toddlers, all that kind of stuff, I'm definitely pro gentle parenting, but not the kind that you are thinking of. But be aware, be aware, get help, learn how to be a parent, get some few classes on it. I don't know, but like, try your best, to stop generational curses and really be a positive light in your children's lives. And those of us that don't have kids yet, we're definitely gonna keep on researching and like trying to understand and just trying to heal ourselves and heal each other, and keep on sharing our stories to other people, because it really does help. It encourages people. But like, if you are in that right now where your parents are really toxic towards you, pray about it, but definitely don't stay, leave, because your mental health, your physical health is very, very important, and you matter. Okay, parents, don't provoke your kids. Okay, children, obey your parents in the Lord. People forget that, in the Lord, because some parents be asking their kids to do things that are not in the Lord. Okay, so that's also an emphasis there. And stop abusing your kids. I think that's pretty, you know, like apparent, like stop abusing your kids. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. And today's my birthday, by the way. Like, I'm literally filming this on my birthday, but I was like, you know what? Like, it's an entire day. Like, I have other things to do after. But like, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.